What does William Ruto, Felix Tshisekedi, Lazarus Chakwera, Bola Tinubu have in common? Well, if you said they are the modern day African presidents, yes, you are right. They are relatively young leaders. Well, except for Tinubu, they are well dressed, awesome public speakers. They make killer speeches and pushing the Pan-Africanist agenda. They are the modern archetypal African president. But they also have one common factor, the love for travel. Of course, in their luxury presidential jet, supported by taxpayers' money, William Ruto has racked up impressive travel points, so much so that a Kenyan newspaper, The Standard, nicknamed Mr. Ruto the flying president. It said, so great is his love for flying that it appears that he cannot pass up any opportunity, despite pressing domestic demands, such as dealing with the high cost of living. Here is President Ruto criticizing international travel by African leaders just when he got elected into office.
We have also decided that it will not going to be business as usual. We have these meetings, Africa-US meeting, Africa-Europe, Africa-Turkey, Africa-India. Now we are waiting for, there is another one, Africa-Russia.
And Africa-Japan.
And Africa-Japan. We have made the decision that it is not intelligent for 54 of us to go and sit before one gentleman from another place. And sometimes we are mistreated.
Yeah.
You know, we are loaded into buses like school kids. You know. And it's not right.
Well, you are summoned, you know.
It's not.
And then down the track, here is the same president in Italy attending the African Summit Conference. The very things that he was criticizing. What does presidency do to people, huh? Now, the Congolese president was heavily criticized, that is Felix Tshisekedi, for his frequent foreign trips, with critics saying he had nothing to show for his many trips. This was prior to his re-election last year, December. Since his election, though, he's already traveled to France to catch up with the French president, Macron. And last month, as Mr. Tinubu made yet another trip to Europe, Nigeria's opposition leader Atiku Abubakar said on social media that Nigeria does not need a tourist in chief. He criticized the president's private visit. While Nigeria is drowning in the ocean of insecurity, he's traveling around. That's what he said. In Zambia, the citizens also complained President Hakainde Hichilema's frequent travels, which at some point he was averaging 2 international trips a month. This is just but a small sample, isn't it? We know many more African presidents love to travel. In the 8 months since his inauguration, Mr. Tinubu has made 14 trips, an average of just under 2 a month. But this is dwarfed by Mr. Ruto, who has made about 50 journeys abroad since he became president only in 2022, averaging more than 3 a month. President Chakwera of Malawi was right there, up there with them, so much so that, to his credit though, he banned himself from international travel last year, November, till March 2024 this year. Now let us look at President Bola Tinubu's travel itinerary since his election. It's very impressive. In June 2023, just 3 weeks after assuming office, Mr. Tinubu traveled to Paris for a 2-day climate summit. He had already been there months earlier to rest and plan the transition shortly after being elected president. Remember when he actually just went to France and stayed there for weeks and weeks, and people are asking, where is Mr. Tinubu? He said he's resting and planning for Nigeria in Paris. Now from Paris, he went on to the UK for private talks with his predecessor, who also had traveled to rest after the elections in the UK. I don't know. A week later, Mr. Tinubu went to Guinea-Bissau for a meeting of West African bloc ECOWAS, followed by a trip to Nairobi. In August, he visited Benin, and in September, India, the United Arab Emirates, and the USA for the UN General Assembly before returning to Paris. He was home for the whole of October before resuming his travels with a trip to Saudi Arabia, then Guinea-Bissau and Germany at the end of November, and a week later, he traveled to Dubai. The Nigerian presidency has said that the trips are very, very important for attracting foreign investment. African leaders often argue that the international travel is an essential aspect of diplomatic relations and cooperation, engaging with the global community, attending international summits, and fostering bilateral relationships are considered crucial for a nation's development and influence on the world stage. However, there is a fine line between necessary diplomatic engagements and excessive travel expenditures. That line is often blurred. One of the key contributors to the exorbitant cost of African leaders' travels is the luxurious lifestyle they adopt during their trips and the large entourage. Leaders frequently opt for high-end accommodations, luxury transport, and extensive entourages, all at the expense of taxpayers' money. This extravagant lifestyle not only tarnishes the image of these leaders, but also diverts valuable resources away from pressing domestic issues such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure development in the countries. United Nations General Assembly annual gathering is a keenly awaited event in many African countries, with large entourages accompanying the president and staying in New York for weeks. Shopping, basically, isn't it? They go for shopping. The financial burden imposed by leaders' extravagant travels poses a severe strain on national economies. We're already struggling for so many other factors. So resources that could have been allocated to critical sectors, poverty alleviation for instance, are diverted to fund luxurious international trips. This economic drain impedes the overall development of nations and perpetuates cycles of poverty and inequality, as citizens witness their leaders indulging in opulent travel at the expense of essential services. Dissatisfaction and resentment among the public grow. This discontent can manifest in protests, strikes, and other forms of civil unrest, further destabilizing the political landscape. One of the most iconic and successful presidents of our times in Africa, President Joseph Magufuli of Tanzania, never traveled outside the country, yet his country was hugely successful under his leadership. That's a very good example of the kind of leadership that people are looking in Africa. And if the leaders travel, maybe they should prioritize cost-effective travel options, opting for more modest accommodations, limiting entourages, and utilizing commercial flights where appropriate. Implementing guidelines and regulations to control travel expenses can help strike a balance between domestic engagement or diplomatic engagement rather and financial responsibility. By the way, have you seen the new Argentine president? He told the people, we don't have money. We are going to cut the number of ministries, which he did. And he traveled commercial to Europe simply because he said we don't have money. He even threatened to close the central bank because it was making the country poor. So the problem is he is capitalist, and Africa leans towards communism. Would then they look at him and say, maybe this is what we should do? I don't know. And other countries to call their presidents the name flying presidents include Namibia and Sierra Leone. Maybe you know others. Let me know on the comments below. You know that we're in 2024, leaders can explore alternative means of engaging with international community without resorting to excessive travel. Utilizing modern communication technologies for virtual summits, conferences, and diplomatic discussions can significantly reduce the need for frequent and expensive overseas trips. I think we should do that. We have the technology, why not? So, in conclusion, while diplomatic engagement is undoubtedly essential for the growth and development of nations, African leaders must exercise prudence in managing public funds. Yes, we must. Excessive spending on international travel not only drains national resources, but also perpetuates negative stereotypes and undermining public trust. By implementing transparency measures, enhancing accountability, and prioritizing domestic development, African leaders can strike a balance between engaging with the global community and fulfilling their responsibilities to their citizens. The challenge is in transforming the allure of international prestige into tangible benefits for the people that they lead. Can this happen in Africa? I hope it can, because some of the trips just never ever make any sense. Yeah, like, okay, it just doesn't. I think these habits need to stop. Anyway, what do you think? Leave your comments below and I'll see you in my next one.